I'm Lexi. I'm in the US. And today we are going to take a look at the difference between Cadbury chocolate in the US and Cadbury chocolate in the UK. Cadbury chocolate in the UK is probably the most common chocolate. But here in the US, most of what we get tends to be Hershey's. But we have started getting some, or a fair amount, of Cadbury showing up on the market. But in the US, the Cadbury label is still produced by Hershey's. Now, I know back in like the 80s, we had a couple of Cadbury things. We had Cadbury cream eggs. I remember the commercials with the rabbit that made chicken noises and laid the Cadbury egg. And we had Cadbury Caramello bars. I'm not sure if they were around in the 80s, but I know they were around in the 90s because they were one of my favorite bars. And maybe sometime I'll share a kind of funny story about me and Cadbury caramel bars, or what we call them here is caramello bars. But in the recent years, we've been getting a lot more Cadbury stuff. So I thought we'd take a look at some of it and compare it to its UK counterparts. Now for some of these, I don't have direct counterparts. What I did is I went to CVS, because CVS seems to have a lot of these, and bought every Cadbury bar that they had on the shelf. Well, one of every Cadbury bar they had on the shelf. And then I found a box on Amazon that had a selection of Cadbury bars from the UK. Some of these seem to be direct or pretty direct comparisons, and some of them are completely different altogether. But let's start with the direct comparisons and see what we've got. As always, we are going to start with the most basic, and that is going to be the Cadbury Dairy Milk. Now, the first thing that you might notice when I open these up is these from the UK look like they have melted at some point, and that's because they did. It was quite warm the day they were delivered, and they were left in a black mailbox, therefore exacerbating the meltiness. But they'll still taste great. It'll be fine. The bars have a few visual differences right off the bat. The direction that they go. Are they the same size? This one is 100 grams. This one is 99 grams. So pretty gosh darn close. How about calories? I know we don't really look at calories too much here. The UK one is 147 calories per 6 chunks, and the US is 150 calories per 5 chunks. Not that that tells us a lot until we see the size of the chunk. But let's get these open. I'm going to start with the US. It smells very chocolatey, but honestly and kind of disappointingly, it smells a little Hershey-esque. You've got the pretty Cadbury logo printed on the chocolate. Let's get the other one open before we taste them. Let's take bets on how long through this video it takes for me to spill this whole mountain of chocolate on the floor somehow. I'm hoping I don't, but it's looking like I might. Okay, this wrapper, the UK wrapper, is a lot more substantial and harder to get open. It won't just tear. This one smells a lot more like the Cadbury I expect, because the Cadbury I expect comes from the UK, so that makes sense. Okay, so visually, the US chunks are a little bit more square than the rectangular UK ones. Not a big deal. Let's break off a chunk of each. And start with the US. It doesn't taste like Hershey's, so that's a good thing. Not that I have a problem with Hershey's chocolate. I like Hershey's chocolate. But I know that a lot of Europeans don't. but it's not quite as thick and unctuous as what I remember UK Cadbury being. That being said, it does coat your mouth and cling to your mouth a lot more than your standard Hershey's. And the UK version. The UK version has a softer, creamier chocolate flavor. I actually think that the flavor of the US version is more intense. I'm not certain which one I prefer. They're different. I kind of hate to say this, but I think I like the US one better because I like the slightly more intense chocolatey flavor. Now, if we could get that intensity with the rich unctuousness of the UK, that would be the ideal world, right? But together, everything is better, right? This may seem obvious to some people, but I just realized exactly how much chocolate I'm going to be eating in this video. Give me a second to get a water. I think I'm going to need it. Water achieved. All right. Water does not want to stand up. The next one we have is another direct comparison. Both the UK Cadbury and American Cadbury has a fruit and nut bar. So let's do the same thing. What kind of fruit and nuts are in this? Does it say? Probably says in the ingredients. I don't feel like getting into the ingredients. The UK version has raisins and almonds. Okay, let's get into the ingredients. Raisins and almonds. I was kind of expecting, and this from both bars, I was kind of expecting more than one kind of nut and more than one kind of fruit, like dried cherries and cranberries and raisins and almonds and pecans and I don't know, I guess I'm expecting too much from my food. That is the US. At least these look different, so I can't mix them up. And that is the UK. Let's start with the UK first this time. Okay. Keeping in mind I don't like raisins, I like the texture. The crunch with the chew and the creamy, I like the texture. Just me, I wish it was a different fruit. I'm going to have the same complaint about the American one though, so we're being fair. I feel like the nuts are bigger in the UK bar, which I like because that crunch helps to offset some of what I don't like about the raisins. The nuts in the US bar are just smaller pieces, so they're getting lost a little bit more. In this one, even more than in the regular one, and this is going to be weird, but even more than in the regular one, I can taste the difference in the chocolate in the way that it plays off the sweetness of the raisins. But I think I'm going to say that the UK bar is better because of the larger chunks of nuts. Another sip of water, and then on to the bar that I have been most excited to directly compare. Okay, that was more than a sip. I may end up needing more water. This is the American Cadbury Caramello bar. And this is the UK Dairy Milk Caramel bar. Little afraid of what the sun might have done to this one, but we're going to be hopeful. And this was one of my absolute favorite candy bars growing up. Ah! Oh, didn't drop it. I saved it. I saved it. Caramel. Okay, now I know I messed up already, but UK caramel bar and UK caramello bar filled with caramel. US caramel, UK caramel. Gonna try. Clearly not gonna succeed 100% of the time. I'm gonna open the side that is less melty feeling. Okay, now the US bar is flatter than the UK bar, and I can tell you already, I'm not liking that. I want more caramel or caramel. Let's start with the US one, which is the one I'm used to and that I know I love. Liquidy caramel just kind of explodes when you bite into this one. Now this design of bar, not quite as much as when you get the regular size one, because the regular size one does have more caramel per pocket. This one really, really coats your mouth. And the UK caramel bar. This one has a chewier caramel, and it doesn't coat your mouth quite as much. There's more caramel than caramel in the caramello bar. Has anyone been counting how many times I've said caramel or caramel in this segment? And it's a very buttery caramel, but I think I like the liquidy caramel better. Just the way it kind of oozes out when you bite into it. That doesn't mean if you hand me a UK caramel bar, a UK caramel bar, that I'm not going to eat it and love every minute. Just means I'm going to love the American caramello bar a smidge more. This next one is sort of a direct comparison. We've got the US Dairy Milk Roasted Almond and the UK Dairy Milk Whole Nut. Now this shows hazelnuts in it. Is it just hazelnuts? Yeah, just hazelnuts versus almonds. So not exactly the same, but as close as I'm going to get to in this assortment. As a general rule, I really like almonds in chocolate bars. This one was very apparent on how melty it got, but will survive. And I'm also not the most giant fan of hazelnuts, but just like with the raisins, I will try to not let that influence my preferences too much. Okay. It does seem to be whole almonds in the US almond bar. That one's good. That one's really good. I would say just for me, like a tiny step down from the caramello bar, but I would probably buy it more often. It's an easier bar to eat because it's not so overwhelming. Where the caramello bar is just so incredibly decadent. I don't think I could finish a whole caramello bar that size. I know you're not I know you're not meant to, but let's face it, who opens a candy bar and doesn't finish it? I don't think I could finish a whole caramello bar of that size. But I probably could finish the whole roasted almond bar. That is delicious. And the Whole Nut by UK Cadbury. The hazelnut is not nearly as overpowering a flavor as I thought it was going to be in that, but I still like the almond bar dramatically more because of the texture. The almonds have much more crunch than the hazelnut does. The hazelnut is a much softer, more buttery nut. So much water today. Okay, so here we stop the direct comparisons. I'm just going to show you what I've got left that sort of compares. I've got a UK Dairy Milk Oreo, a UK Dairy Milk Dime, and a US Dairy Milk Rocky Road. I am calling these similar because they are milk chocolate with stuff. So let's go ahead and do all three of these at once, and then we'll do my remaining 2 US bars. The Dime bar is like a toffee. I have never had a Dime bar, but I really like American Heath bars, so I'm expecting it to be similar, where there's bits of that hard, buttery toffee inside. Okay, I've got my piece broken off. I'm going to leave it sitting on top of the bar so I know what is what. Now the Oreo one. This looks like it's got an Oreo filling to it rather than like Oreo pieces in the bar. Let's go with a slightly less melty looking chunk. And the Rocky Road. The Rocky Road, and I've explained that American Rocky Road is a little different than British Rocky Road. We did a video on that. I'll link that below. American Rocky Road is chocolate, almonds, and marshmallows. So that's what this has in it. Almonds and marshmallows. That didn't break cleanly. That's the problem with bars with stuff in them, is they often don't break cleanly. Let's start with the UK, because that's what's close to me. This is the Dime. Crunchy little bits of toffee, like I expected. I do kind of like that it's not the whole big sheet, because those in the Heath bars are a little bit hard to eat. Although I'm assuming that's what a basic Dime bar is. However, the chocolate, the Cadbury chocolate, is so unctuous and creamy and intense and just kind of takes over the whole flavor that I can feel the toffee. I can't taste it one little bit. Let's go with the Oreo. The cream center kind of mellows the chocolate, which is okay. It's not good or bad that it's mellowed. It is what it is. I like the crunch of the cookie bits, but I think maybe this bar would have been better served by using dark chocolate, because Oreos are a darker chocolate. So if you're going to kind of play with that flavor profile, the milk chocolate makes it not taste like an Oreo pretty much at all. It tastes like a mellow Cadbury bar with some cookie crunch in it. And the Rocky Road American Dairy Milk. Oh, this one's not good. This one's not good at all. Okay. The marshmallows are like the little bitty American cereal marshmallows, but because they've been encased in chocolate, They don't have that like freeze-dried crunch where they just kind of follow through. They're almost a little gummy, or gummy isn't right because not like chew gummy, but like dense. They don't have that beautiful light crunch that cereal marshmallows have. I'm not 100% sure I got an almond in that bite. If I did, they're definitely almond pieces, not whole almonds. No, here's a whole almond. I didn't get an almond in that bite. Let's go ahead and try that. The crunch of the almond is still lovely. However, the marshmallows also seem to impart a flavor into the chocolate that's weird. Artificial tasting. It's not like vanilla, like a marshmallow is typically a vanilla flavored marshmallow. I don't know what it is. It feels almost fruity, but we know Cadbury can do fruit and chocolate well because of their fruit and nut bar, and this is not done well. Yeah, that's just horrifyingly not good. I think the conclusion here is stick with the classics. The whole nuts, the roasted almond, the fruit and nut, your basic chocolate, and caramel or caramel. Because those were all lovely. These were, the dime and the Oreo were kind of take it or leave it. The Rocky Road, leave it. That being said, bad chocolate is still chocolate, and chocolate is still good. So if the Rocky Road bar was the only bar I could get, I would eat it. But it's like a 3. It's not a good chocolate bar at all. Okay, enough on that. We're going to cleanse my palate one more time, and I have 2 more American bars to try. My last 2 American bars are both dark chocolate. This one is a basic dark chocolate, and this is a black forest. We're going to try the basic first. And I know Cadbury UK does make a dark chocolate bar. It just wasn't in the assortment that I was able to purchase. This is a nice looking dark chocolate. It smells rich. It's got a bite to it that the others didn't. There is a sweetness to this that I have never had in a dark chocolate. It's like they took regular dark chocolate but added like maybe 50% more sugar. It's okay. Not my favorite dark chocolate, and not my favorite bar on the table. But let's give the last one a try. Dark chocolate with cake flavor, cherry flavored fudge, and cookie pieces. Well, that's terrifying. And also feels quintessentially American when they could have just used cherries. I love cherries. I love cherries and chocolate. I'm a little afraid of this. Is it gonna go the way of Rocky Road? This smells like cake batter. Like artificial cake batter ice cream or cake batter cookies or... Are cake batter cookies a thing? You know what I mean. Okay, you see my face. I'm going to show you why my face is making this face. Can you see that color? You can see it, right? Are cherries supposed to be that color? I know they said cherry fudge, but is that even soft? No, they said cherry fudge, and those are crispy. Let's taste this, and then we're going to look at the label again. Okay. First, it's better than I thought it would be. But second, it's still not great. It's not horrifying. It's better than the Rocky Road. I like the crunch of the cookie bits, but that's more of a textural thing. The cake batter flavoring in the chocolate is actually kind of nice. I don't taste the cherry at all. Not one little bit. Gonna read this one more time. Dark chocolate with cake flavor. Okay, we got that. Cherry flavored fudge. We got red, slightly fruity, essenced things that were crunchy. And cookie pieces. I did not read that wrong. I know the UK and the US have slightly different definitions of the word fudge, but that's not either of them to my understanding. And this is a US chocolate bar. It is definitely not a US definition of the word fudge. But it really comes down to what I think of that one, huh? Like the Rocky Road, if it was handed to me, or if it was the only chocolate bar I could get, I would eat it. I would enjoy it, because it's chocolate. If I had to choose between the Black Forest and the Rocky Road, I would choose the Black Forest, because the Rocky Road was really not good. But I'm not choosing that Black Forest bar amongst the array of other chocolate that exists. If we could reimagine that bar for a minute and have it be filled with chewy, dried cherries. I'll even keep the cake batter flavor because that was much nicer than anticipated. And maybe we can keep the cookie bits. I don't think they're necessary, but they're not a problem. The problem is the non-existent sort of cherry stuff. But again, that leaves us with the lesson learned being pick the classics. And that's usually a good lesson, right? But I have eaten way too much chocolate, and that's all the chocolate I have to taste for you today. So, if you could give the video a thumbs up and subscribe if you haven't already, I'd really appreciate it. And as always, I'll see you next time. Bye!